Welcome to video 18 in the Aspiring Flutists Epic Inspiration course. This video is all about body mapping. A body map is the picture you have in your mind of the size, shape, and movement of your body. Now, this might seem like an obvious thing, but until you're sensitized to your full body map, head to toe, you might only be aware of certain parts of your body, like maybe fingers, lips as you form an embouchure, eyes as you read the music. But for some flutists, that's about it. And unfortunately, when you're not sensitized to your full body map, head to toe, that leaves a lot of room for tension to creep in. And as musicians, because we do so much repetitive motion, tension-filled habits can promote injury. What we want to do is go the complete opposite way with it. Learn how to play our flute in a body-friendly way, where our body is being used as it was designed in conjunction with this beautiful instrument. You know, actually, our body is our instrument. This fancy silver tube is what makes us sound like a flutist. So I'm going to share with you as much as I can in this video from my personal experiences. I have a lot of imagination-based body mapping hooks that work for me and I share with my students, but I do want to say it is highly valuable, more than worth it, to consult an official body mapping specialist. My favorite body mapping person is Lea Pearson. She wrote the book Body Mapping for Flutists, and I'll include her information for her website and her services in the description box below this video. Without further ado, let's use our imaginations and begin the process of exploring your flute playing body map. For most of this course, when I've taken the time to share a personal story, there's been a bit of humor. I'm able to look back and laugh at the life lessons, the flute lessons, the aha moments. But this story that I'm about to share with you is not funny at all. I experienced quite a bit of musician injury, and I am not alone. Musicians who do not invest in sensitizing their body map head to toe and practicing body-friendly habits can and often do induce injury because of the amount of repetitive motion. And that is what happened to me. So I do want to tell you, I have had wonderful teachers, and I had heard advice about more body-friendly flute playing. It was not that I didn't have any information. I did have information. But I was a stressed out individual as a high school and college student, and there was something quite therapeutic about practicing my flute, but also I almost used it as like a punching bag or like therapy in an aggressive way. I felt like if I can control my flute, if I could be the best, if I could just make everything perfect, then somehow that would make everything okay in my musician journey. And so that ended up in me squeezing my flute so tight, pushing it into my face. I would have different types of pain in my back, hands. It eventually progressed to shooting pains, lots of inflammation. Sorry, this is a cautionary tale. But the problem was I would feel that pain and then just kind of squeeze harder and play through the pain. Today, I recommend to my students and also to you that you do not play through pain. What happened to me was severe carpal tunnel, so much inflammation, tendonitis. I had to wear braces on both hands for about 8 months. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do basic activities throughout my day. When I would take my braces off just to wash my hair, the pins and needles and shooting pains were just almost unbearable. I finished my undergraduate degree in flute performance not playing my flute. I had to turn in papers and things, which was pretty ironic because I still had to type and I had all these hand problems. So the summer after my undergrad, I had had enough. I didn't want surgery. That may be the answer for some people. It was not the answer for me. So I did a lot of research. I ate foods that were anti-inflammatory instead of foods that aggravated the problem. I bought a new flute from Carolyn Nussbaum Music Company, my Miyazawa. That really was just a lifesaver because this flute, I was able to have such a light touch, but still get power in my sound. That was everything. And also, I dug back in my music student library to my Alexander technique classes, to the advice I had been given from flute teachers. Plus, I utilized all these experiments that I started to do. I combined personal flute playing experiments with what I was learning in physical therapy. I was having to do hot, cold to help the inflammation. Long story short, I pieced together the puzzle of how to play the flute completely differently than I had been. Now I am the princess and the pea. I do not play through pain. Absolutely not. Now, the only exception to this would be if you're on stage and you're in the middle of a piece, obviously you can't stop. Or if you're in a rehearsal with other musicians, you need to keep going. But when you are practicing on your own, do not play through pain. If you squeeze harder or ignore what your body is trying to tell you, you are going to make the problem worse and worse and worse. And sometimes we feel like we don't have time to take a break. But I'm here to tell you, you don't have time not to. I know that was a double negative, but what I'm saying is the breaks are so important that I took this time to share with you my story so that you don't have to go through the same thing. If you have any kind of pain, you need to talk to your flute teacher or a body mapping specialist and figure out what are the root causes. Where is this pain starting? What habits can you adapt? We're going to talk a little bit about that in this video, and mostly I'm going to give you imagination-based hooks to start exploring your body map head to toe. But I do want you to seek out other resources. Lea Pearson's book, Body Mapping for Flutists, is a fantastic place to start. Do every exercise she recommends in this book and start to even keep a journal of what works, what you noticed, what you're learning about your body that day. If you are a flutist that plays from the neck up, essentially, and the rest of your body, you just power through and make it do what you feel like it needs to do, I am asking you to fresh start, to have a completely different way of practicing from now on. I promise you, your tone will improve, your breathing will improve, and your mental health will improve if you begin to incorporate body-friendly habits in your flute practice. By the way, I'm fine now because I eat anti-inflammatory foods. I'm the princess and the pea when I practice. I don't play through pain. I ask my students to do this, and I do this myself. If there's ever any little twinge of anything, I put my flute down, I take a break, I have certain stretches, I'll show them to you in this video. It is worth it to resensitize yourself to what your body needs. Listen to your body. It talks to you if you pay attention. Here is my absolute #1 tip for finding the secret sweet spots when it comes to your flute body map. It's a strange tip, but it's everything. The tip is that a lot of times being in balance and playing your flute in a body-friendly way, it feels like nothing. Let me explain. When I was younger, and playing my flute, my throat was so constricted. I got some advice from many teachers. Open your throat, they said, open your throat. So I wanted to be a good student, and I opened my throat. I started with tension in the constricted direction, and then I just changed direction and had even more tension because I was forcing my throat open. It took me years to catch on to the fact that a nice, relaxed, open throat mostly feels like nothing. In my book, the Sing Along Surrender Etude book, I called them the nebulous nothings, these secret sweet spots for your body map. Here are some more tips for finding the nebulous nothings. Tip number 1, don't strangle the soprano. If you want this gorgeous soprano to sing her heart out, don't strangle her. In fact, I often have my students just do a little toss. They get nervous, but the right hand has it here, the left hand has it here. You're not going to drop it. Just teach your body how light your flute is. You can have amazing technique without crunching down on the keys. Next tip, mostly float. So there are a couple of areas of your body where you want to feel a lot of engagement. A lot of times you're going to feel your embouchure. A lot of times you're going to feel your core muscles helping support your airstream. And definitely I want you to feel your feet on the ground, feel the ground supporting you. But other than embouchure, hands with a very light touch, core muscles, sometimes compressing in, sometimes pushing out, and feet on the ground. Other than these kind of touchstones, mostly float. I can't even tell you, it's hard to describe. When I'm in the zone and I'm in balance, in alignment, I feel so ooey gooey, airy fairy, especially when there's a nice sense of head balance. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Next tip, nothing to prove. Because the flute is mostly invisible to us and a fluid body position feels pretty floaty, it's tempting for many flutists to try to grab on to something that feels more concrete. It's like you're wanting to prove that you have control. But there is nothing to prove. And once you break through the illusion of control into what I call sing-along surrender, you'll start to realize this powerful, powerful statement that we're going to talk about so much in video 19. Vulnerability is strength. When you are open, when you are balanced, when you are trusting, when you have nothing to prove, the flute responds beautifully to this state. Next tip, motion equals emotion. Part of navigating the nebulous nothings is sensing your sound and body in space and time. I know it sounds woo-woo, but it's totally a thing. When you get all zen and in the zone playing long tones, you might know what I mean. The only way to do this, to sense your sound and body in space and time, is to flow and have natural movement in your playing. In other words, go with the flow because the flow knows where to go. If you play your flute with passion and feeling, movement is non-negotiable. Now, something we're going to talk about is the difference between habitual motion, like some of this row the boat stuff, versus motion that works with your body and the music. But motion is a very natural part of playing the flute in a body-friendly way. Last tip, marshmallow flute. Sometimes it's hard to understand the nebulous nothings when you're craving tangible sensations and a feeling of proof that you're doing the right thing. Use imagery to light up your imagination and create something vivid and meaningful you can understand. Pretend your head is a bowling ball balanced on your open accordion spine. Your shoulders are like a t-shirt hanging on a hanger, and your fingers could be made out of spaghetti. Pretend your lungs are beautiful hot air balloons, and your whole body is a sponge that can breathe in air like water through every pore. My best imagery-based body mapping hook is to pretend like my flute is made out of marshmallows. Here we are in the sfumato section. Do you remember how important it is for us high-level artistic musicians to be able to handle the tension of opposites, to be able to contemplate opposing ideas that are somehow both true at the same time? Well, I really mean it when I talk about the illusion of control. But on the other hand, of course we want control. Of course we want to play with technical accuracy. We want to be in time, in tune, and alive. Believe it or not, those nebulous nothings can help you to have control over your instrument. Tension of opposites, I still believe control is an illusion. Here is a poem that may help bring the nebulous nothings a little bit more into focus for you. The flute is a mysterious, ethereal thing. When you play it, you can't see it, and you must let go to sing. Don't squeeze it or force it or try to make it do your will. Muscling the flute will only serve to make it shrill. Instead, learn to breathe and practice slow while never rushing. And this way you'll catch glimpses of those subtle, nebulous nothings. A throat constricted is way too tight, but forcing it open won't make anything right. A relaxed throat happens when nothing is felt. So the best thing to do is simply to melt. Gripping the flute creates ripples of tension, which triggers your brain into tense apprehension. Balancing the flute is a technique far less brutal. The trick is that balance feels nebulously neutral. Trying to keep track of all details and analysis can quickly cause a flutist to have mental paralysis. Listening, on the other hand, is a simple feeling of care. And the mind may not realize that no thoughts need be there. Since breathing and balancing and listening are easy, you'd think every flutist would feel light and breezy. But the challenge exists because each skill that's desired is found only through the relaxation required to fall into awareness and patience and trust. And those countless leaps of faith, which are non-negotiable musts. Nebulous nothings are the mysterious key to the magic in-betweens and the flutist you want to be. A flutist who listens and feels and is free to sing along, surrender, and play with total artistry. Micro steps have ripple effects. Just taking a moment to pause, do a breathing exercise or two, do some stretches, release any accidentally accumulated tension. It can make all the difference in your flute playing overall and the general good vibe of your practice session. So you can see on the screen a couple of things I like to do as little practice breaks, and I describe the first one as a tension timeout to release that tension, but you could also use it as an attention timeout if you just need to refresh your focus, energize your body and mind. So I'll describe what I'm doing. You can shake out your hands, loosey-goosey rubber hands, then some big shoulder rolls back. I like to feel that warmth across my back. You can reverse them up, down, and forward. You can spread your arms out wide with your palms facing forward. Feel expansion in your whole body. After a few seconds, you can flip your palms facing backward. It's so good to open up, since we flutists have that temptation for downward pull, which can also kind of cave in your chest. That lift in the chest and that expansion, so good to feel. Then you can finish off your little tension timeout with a cat stretch. You can also see on the left of your screen a stretch that's just so nice. If you feel like your lower back has been compressed, or if you just really want to feel what it's like to have an elongated spine, leaning all the way over, flute still in hands, letting your head hang, breathing into your back, getting the feeling of that elongation, then slowly coming back up to standing, bringing the elongated feeling with you. Then you could stretch your flute up to the sky, just open up even more. And then when your arms come down, you could keep that feeling of expansion in your chest. You can obviously design a tension timeout or an attention timeout any way you like, and any stretches that you know work really well for your body, I highly encourage you to incorporate them in your flute practice sessions. A models and bridges approach to filling in your flute body map might be a little easier than you think. Whenever I've had a student that's into yoga or Pilates or swimming or dance or an athlete of any kind, but maybe they don't have a positive relationship with their body and body map when they play the flute, like maybe they play from the neck up or they squeeze too tight or have other types of tension, we're usually able to have an exploratory conversation and find some kind of movement or alignment or balance from their physical activity that they do outside of flute practicing and bring it into their flute playing. For example, if you're into yoga, you could do your favorite poses and then do your flute warm-up. You could do some more yoga and then practice scales for the day, making connections between the balance, alignment, and sense of your body that you have in yoga or Pilates or swimming. Bringing it to the way you play your flute can be transformative. So I encourage you, if you have any kind of activity that gets you more in touch with your body and you have more of a sense what's going on from head to toe, to learn from that activity and even incorporate it into your flute practice sessions somehow. Now, you may have to be creative. If you're swimming, obviously you can't play flute in the water, but if you swim in the mornings, you could practice right after. So do be creative, and I hope you make some wonderful models and bridges connections. Maybe as you're swimming laps, you can get in touch with your breathing. Then when you're practicing flute, you can breathe like the swimmer that you are. Make connections, be creative. As you're working on your muscle memory and getting in those lovely musician repetitions, remember to be so sensitive to what your body is telling you. You've probably heard me mention a couple of times already, The Princess and the Pea. And just in case you don't know the fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen, here's a quick little recap. A queen was giving a test to this woman to see if she really was royalty, a true princess. So she put a pea under 20 mattresses and 20 eiderdown quilts. So many layers of softness, but the test was if the princess was really a princess, she could feel something that tiny under all those layers. And of course, the fairy tale ends with the true princess passing the test. I want you to be the princess and the pea, or the prince and the pea, or whatever kind of royalty you'd like to be. Just be so sensitive. And if you feel a little tension in your hands, it's worth taking a tension time out, doing some stretches, reevaluating. Be sensitive. Your body and your flute will thank you for it. In just a moment, I'm going to share with you some helpful advice from the Aspiring Flutists Sound and Scale book in the Body Stuff section. Now, it's always important to collect as many clues as we can when it comes to body mapping. And I'd like to suggest that anytime you're exploring your body map and finding balance or alignment, that you experiment with extremes. For instance, if your shoulders tend to be high and you want to work on relaxing them down, try shrugging as high as you can up to your ears, way too high, ridiculous extreme, and then let them drop on their own. Another extreme you can practice with when it comes to head balance is to go into downward pull, like unfortunately we do so often at the computer when we're driving. Then take your pointer, put it on your chin, come all the way down and back, all the way to double chin. Then find that nebulous nothing sweet spot. I call this bobblehead swivel neck freedom. We'll talk a little bit later about the AO joint that's related to this bobblehead swivel neck freedom. But again, if you practice with extremes, then it's easier to find that nebulous nothing sweet spot in the middle. One of the easiest and most powerful things you can do to improve your sound is to balance your head. Did you know your head weighs about 10 pounds? Anytime your head is out of balance, it puts stress on your spine and neck, which causes ripple effects in your shoulders and back. When you take all of that pressure off of your neck, shoulders, back, and spine, your throat is more relaxed and your air path is less obstructed. To balance your head, try crouching down with your chin sticking out into downward pull, chest caves in too. Then put your pointer finger on your chin and gently press it down and back toward your body. It's just subtle and gentle. Allow your body to follow the path of motion that you're suggesting by pressing on your chin. Let your spine lengthen until your head reaches a point of balance at the center of your body, with your neck long and your chin a little bit down. So if you were in marching band and you looked way up at the drum major, or even if you're just used to looking up at a conductor, we can accidentally add compression in our spine without realizing it. So this exercise is a great idea to realize what balance can feel like. Once you are balanced and at your full height, bring your flute to your face, not your face to your flute, because now you're back into downward pull. Another thing you can do is free your neck muscles. Many flute players accidentally over-engage their neck muscles, causing unnecessary stiffness and pain. Teach yourself to relax your neck muscles in a comfortable way while you play your flute. Now, my mom is a massage therapist, and she gave me this exercise. If you pretend there's a string lifting up from the center of your scalp while you look down to your toes, you can feel those neck muscles stretching and engaging. When you come back to easy balance and swivel your head from left to right, not only can you connect with the idea that those neck muscles are what's turning your head, but you can feel how easy they can be. They don't need to be in that overly engaged feel. They can be in a soft, easy, relaxed position. Do lots of experiments so you get comfy with what being comfortable feels like. To say that I love bobblehead swivel neck freedom as a flutist and a teacher is a massive understatement. I like this term bobblehead for the nodding, swivel neck, so you can get that rollerball feel, that easy neck feel. And I have to add the word freedom because there is a freedom that comes from balancing your head that just has so many positive ripple effects. I'm not even sure I could list them for you, but I just see it over and over and over again. When a flutist is in downward pull, everything is impeded. Breathing, vibrato, tone, intonation, it all just gets harder. It's almost like you're strangling yourself from the back, actually. But when you are in balance, in alignment, when you have bobblehead swivel neck freedom, not only does everything get way easier, breathing, vibrato, tone, intonation, articulation, everything. It even improves the flow of information from your mind to your body and back. Read about the atlanto-occipital joint, the AO joint. This is very much related to what I call bobblehead swivel neck freedom. It's the joint at the top of your spine, base of your skull. I am not an official body mapping person. I've just been very interested in it as a flutist and a teacher. And I can tell you from anecdotal evidence, teaching tons of students, bobblehead, swivel neck freedom, it is a thing. A bigger resonating chamber means bigger resonance. If you want your sound to ring out with beautiful resonance, keep your chest lifted. The resonating chamber in your chest can only do its job if you let it. Whenever you notice that your chest is collapsed inward, poof it out like a peacock would, with your sternum moving away from your spine. After you poof out your chest, do check your lower back to make sure it stays relaxed and open and doesn't accidentally tighten. If you don't know what it feels like to have your lower back expanded instead of contracted, you can do a little experiment where you lock your knees, your lower back will tighten up, and then release your knees and your lower back will open. That will give you the feeling. My favorite chest lifting advice given to me by a flute teacher is do your best Dolly Parton impression. I've adapted this for my students and tell them to use the Wonder Bra approach, and my male students usually have a good sense of humor about it. Relax your shoulders. A different flute teacher once told me to imagine that my shoulders were like the shoulders of a t-shirt hanging down the sides of a clothes hanger. This was especially helpful because I, like so many flutists, was accidentally acting like my shoulders came out the front of my body. Letting them hang down the sides was a game changer. Flutists to me are like marionette puppets. When their shoulders are high and tight, then the back of their tongues and their jaws tend to be high and tight too. When you relax your shoulders down to their natural position, your neck and jaw and tongue are able to relax more easily as well. It's even better when you imagine that your elbows are heavy and allow your arms to hang in the flute holding position as opposed to feeling like you have to lift your flute up. Now, often I'll do an exercise with my students that I call heavy elbows. So imagine that marionette puppet, the arms are hanging on strings. I put my hands below their elbows and I tell them I'm going to jostle their elbows if they accidentally pick them up themselves. I encourage them to put the weight of their elbows in my hands as they play their flute. This takes some experimenting, but heavy elbows, wonderful ripple effects from this as well. The back of your tongue tends to relax. Things tend to be a little bit more in alignment. Heavy elbows is a worthy experiment. The muscles in your core can help you have more core in your tone. So in other words, core equals core. When you use your tummy, lower back, side, and pelvic floor muscles to help you blow a faster, more consistent stream of air, you enhance the sweet spot in your sound and resonate much more easily. There are so many ways to access your core muscles, and it is important to find what works for you in different musical contexts. So I know a lot of flute teachers and flutists enjoy doing fun exercises to activate their core, planks, sit-ups, push-ups, but I do want to say that certain musical contexts require that much core, say a passionate moment in the Lieberman Sonata or the Zeeman Sonata, super modern, super powerful music. But a lot of times that kind of intense engagement is not the best matchup for the beautiful musical moment that you are creating. So explore some of these other ways to access your core muscles and have a variety of methods that you can use to find the just right core support for the situation. You can hiss like a snake, I think hissing like a snake is one of the best ways to feel that natural engagement of the core without having to overthink it at all. You can pant like a puppy dog. It's really good core support for accents and articulations. You can fake cough. That'll give you a different sense of your core muscles. Love this one, especially for Baroque music. You can practice on your tiptoes. You actually need your core muscles to hold you upright when you're on your tiptoes. You can practice sitting or squatting against the wall sits. This is a favorite of many flutists. You can practice seated with your legs sticking out. That's quite a workout. You can practice on the ground in a sit-up position. You could do push-ups or planks, but like I said, find the core support that creates the sounds that you want in musical context, not just a blanket statement of, oh, I have to engage my core in a really intense way all the time. No, just like breathing and tone and colors and vibrato, even the core support needs to fit the music you are playing in this moment. If you check out YouTube videos of singers talking about resonance, you will learn that the muscles of the face play a big part. Since flutists are singers with just that fancy silver tube making us sound like flutists, learn to play with the muscles of your face soft and open. When you furrow your eyebrows, squint your eyes, or force the corners of your embouchure into tight positions, your sound will not resonate the way that it could. When you play with a soft face and soft eyes, your sound will resonate much more easily, and you might even feel the vibrations behind your facial mask, the muscles of the face. Another benefit of soft face and soft eyes is the improvement in mood and focus. Scrunching up your face sends a message to your mind and body that you are in distress. Relaxing your face sends a message to your mind and body that you are feeling great. I will never forget playing the solo from Debussy's Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun for my flute fairy godmother, Claire Johnson, and struggling to make the sextuplet sound elegant and easy to do. She told me to think of soft eyes, and I took her advice to heart. Instantly, the transitions between notes became effortless and sounded so much more beautiful. Another body mapping clue for you, a warm and comfy throat. If you're anxious or trying to force a sound from your flute, you may unintentionally tighten the muscles of your throat and constrict your airway. To relax your throat into a more open position, imagine that you have just taken a sip of your favorite hot drink, coffee, tea, cocoa, etc. Feel the imaginary warm liquid as it travels down your throat. You can also connect with the feeling of a relaxed and open throat by blowing hot air on your hand. Now, earlier in this video, we talked about the nebulous nothings. So just a reminder, you don't want to go from a constricted throat to a forced open throat. There's just a soft, easy, neutral feeling in between. Getting in touch with your body and your flute playing body map does not mean being rigid. We always need to be radically flexible. Let's start with talking about both of your feet on the ground. Being grounded can mean feeling centered and also literally feeling connected to the ground below your feet. Rather than leaning more on one foot or the other, feel your weight equally on both feet. Instead of leaning on the balls of your feet or the heels, feel your weight on both. Imagine a triangle of support underneath each foot like the picture above. Many flutists move their feet as they perform, and that's more than okay. We're just going to be radically flexible and keep finding a home base position that involves both feet, a sense of balance, and a feeling of being grounded. Now, if you're sitting to play, you might accidentally be bracing your muscles if you're a little self-conscious or nervous or uncomfortable in any way. But if you brace any muscles involved with the breathing process, you're not going to be able to breathe fully or play with your most beautiful tone. So each time you sit to play your flute, imagine that the chair is supporting all your weight and release any muscles you might accidentally be bracing. Let the chair do its job so you can do yours. And just like we want to keep coming back to standing on both feet, you want to keep coming back to sitting on both cheeks, or more accurately, sitting on both sits bones. Take up space. Too often, flutists feel as though they need to shrink and take up as little space as possible. If that's you, it's time to change things in a big way. Flutists not only deserve to take up space, they need to take up space. Take the time to politely adjust your chair and or your standing position so that you have plenty of room to hold your flute, breathe, and play music with freedom. And this includes if you're in a very small space, like say a pit orchestra. Be polite, just ask the musicians on either side of you if you could scoot your chair a little bit. You can do it a couple of different ways. If you want to leave your chair facing forward, then you could sit to the right corner. I like to actually turn my chair a 45-degree angle as compared to the stand. So that 45-degree angle then allows me to just have a subtle turn of my head to the left and my right arm forward. Last thing in this radically flexible section, don't be a pretzel. Marching band flutists are often asked to stand with militaristic posture, right arms pulled back and their flutes at perpendicular angles to the ground. This may be visually appealing, and there's a long tradition of playing this way, but it's not good for the flutists. Anytime you are able, move away from marching band posture into more natural and body-friendly flute playing positions. You will sound better and feel better too. Whether it's an actual mirror or simply your phone camera in reverse, looking at the mirror can be one of the most helpful practice tools for flutists. When it's time to practice, skip judging your appearance and fixing your hair so you can look at yourself in the mirror more objectively. How does your sound change when your lips move like that? What if you tried a slightly different angle like this or like this? You didn't realize your head was so far forward, did you? Notice the way you look and sound when you bring your head back to balance. Be brave and face the mirror. Turn the flutist you see into the flutist you want to be. One of my students made up the best term for when you look in the mirror or listen back to a recording or observe yourself in any way. I just love this phrase. Thank you, Carmen. Loving neutral. I just love it because we do need to have objectivity to observe ourselves, but we should do so in a compassionate way without being too judgy or critical. So remember, loving neutral as you observe and make improvements. Walk around while you practice. Hopefully, if you've watched the other videos in this course, you've heard me recommend this many times. Music is always more beautiful when it sounds and feels alive. Whenever possible, free yourself from the music stand and walk around as you practice. When you stand extremely still in the same position for a long time, you can accidentally begin playing in a stuck or robotic way. You begin to accumulate tension that will block you from sounding your best. In order to flow, glide, sing, soar, dance, and groove through your music, keep natural and easy body movement as a consistent part of your practice. A couple of phrases that might help you be motivated to keep motion in your practice, to walk phrases across the room so you can feel the line and the forward motion. Here's phrase number 1. Motion equals emotion. When you are stuck, there's not going to be a lot of emotion in your playing, but when you are moving, motion naturally evokes emotion. The other phrase I love, well, the first part is tried and true and has been around forever, in time and in tune. But I like to say in time, in tune, and alive. Walking around the room as you engage in what I call the practice potter's wheel is a surefire way to help your music come to life. Perfectionist trap alert. I hope you've been enjoying collecting your clues, figuring out how you can fill in your flute playing body map, and also just sensitize different parts of your body so that you can practice your flute in body-friendly ways. But I do want to draw your attention to this potential perfectionist trap. If you were told as a young person to sit up straight or stand up straight, you might have a false image in your body map of your spine being like a ruler, very literally straight. And our spine is curved. Look at the image on the screen at those beautiful curves. We also need to keep in mind that our actual bodies have curves. If we're just going off of kind of dry shoulds and shouldn'ts, we might be trying to make ourselves fit into a mold that's not very realistic. So as you're filling in your body map, fill it in a way that involves an elongated but still curved spine, and in a way that involves your actual body, its actual size, shape, and curves. That's one of the many reasons why having a great relationship with the mirror, a loving, neutral relationship where you have some objectivity and you can observe what's going on, but you're also compassionate and not too judgy. It's one of the many reasons why doing this is going to be helpful to your flute playing, because you need to get a sense of, what are your shoulders doing? What does it look like to stand up tall with an elongated spine, but not in an overly corrective way that involves a false image or just lack of information. Another little aspect of perfectionism that you might want to watch out for is if you're leaning way in to read your music, that's where a lot of this downward pull comes from. So keep coming back to bobblehead, swivel neck freedom. And remember, filling in your flute playing body map is not about perfection or even shoulds and shouldn'ts. It's about playing your flute in a way that works with your body. And even more than that, really truly realizing that your body is your instrument. Believe it or not, I really do pretend that my flute is made out of marshmallows. And I really believe in the nebulous nothings, that floaty, ethereal feeling where the flute is invisible and my head is balanced and I'm in alignment. And other than connecting to my core muscles, my feet on the ground, and the feeling of the center of my embouchure in the fast air, the rest of me is like not even there. I'm just in the world of sound. If you squeeze your flute tightly as a general rule, and maybe squeeze even tighter every time you try harder to play well, notice when you feel the need to squeeze. If you train yourself to recognize that instinct, you can trade it for what would actually help. So it feels like squeezing would help, but actually that's when you need your core muscles. That's when you need the fast airstream. Most of all, that's when you need to listen better. Now, if your flute needs repairs and that's prompting you to squeeze, I highly recommend that you send your flute to a wonderful repair person, because you don't want to have that tension-filled habit in your flute playing as a regular thing. I do want to say that there are a lot of flute teachers with different philosophies, and if your teacher has recommended some pressure in your hands or pressure against your face, I do understand to a certain extent. Sometimes flutists have too much movement, like their flute is moving around on their face, and sometimes the short-term solution is to say, oh, you need a little bit more pressure. And also, there's sometimes moments in the music where you may find that just this particular sound you're trying to make works a little bit better with some pressure. But just like we're always radically flexible, and just like we always want to be moving to sing-along surrender, always come back to easier balance. The movement on the face can happen if you don't have a balanced approach. The 3 balance points for the flute: left hand pointer, right hand thumb, and face, they really can sort of triangulate the balance needed for your flute. And it's not going to fall. You got to teach your brain that it's not going to jump out of your hands. You don't need to be in survival mode. If you're very gentle with your flute, marshmallow flute, and in sing-along surrender, not only in the world of sound, but with your body, which is your instrument, you will be able to ride the currents of air, ride the roller coaster, follow the rainbow like we talked about in the phrasing video. Hopefully, if you've been watching the videos in this course so far, you're really catching on to how everything is related, and that includes how you use your body with how you sound on your flute. Last big thought for this video. I once spontaneously said this and then burst out laughing because it was such a snooty patooty thing to say, but I really meant it when I said it. I said to a student, you know, the flute is nothing if not a psychophysiological phenomenon. I really meant it. Psychophysiological. Psych as in psychology, you know, what's in your mind, and physiological as what's your body doing. Everything in your mind affects your body, and everything in your body affects your mind. So the reason I said the flute is nothing if not a psychophysiological phenomenon is because so often it runs on opposites. Sfumato, tension of opposites. When we go high, we've got to think low. When we go low, we've got to think high. When we want to play loud, we have to relax. When we want to play soft, it's got to be kind of intense, sometimes very intense. And what's just so tension of opposite-y, so sfumato-y, which is absolutely not a word, but I think it's perfect, is the fact that to have control of our flutes, to play in time, in tune, and alive, we have to surrender control. We have to trust fall off a mountain. We have to expand instead of contract. We have to breathe in and trust. Let the air come in and flow out in an organic, elegant way. And what is just so magical and so wonderful about the flute is that the more you let go, the more it sings.